Attila the Hun was a vicious warrior, a military genius, and by most accounts, a barbarian with a thirst for blood. He was willing to kill anyone who got in his way, including his own brother. He extorted money from the Roman Empire, destroyed many cities, and ironically inspired one as well. But there was more to him than meets the eye, or should we say, met his blade. Welcome back to Nutty History, and today we're going to talk about all the weird things you didn't know about Attila the Hun. Let's get started. Though the word barbarian typically evokes a vision of a crude and savage warrior with no table manners, Attila was born into a powerful royal family. He and his brother Bleda had likely been well educated for their time. They spoke several languages and were trained in battle tactics, archery, and horsemanship, among other useful skills from a young age. His father's brothers Octor and Rugila were the co-rulers of the Huns until Octor's death, followed by Rugila's death in 433. It is speculated that Rugila's children, if he had any, may have been killed in order to make way for Attila and his brother Bleda to ascend to the throne, each taking a separate region of the kingdom. That is, until Bleda was assassinated in 445. While it isn't known exactly how Bleda died, some sources say he tried to kill Attila and Attila retaliated, while others believed he simply did not want to share the throne any longer. Attila would spend the rest of his life as the sole leader of the Hunnic Empire, unhindered by his pesky older brother. Before Attila became the leader of the Huns, they were already feared throughout Europe, and Attila would intensify that reputation with vicious attacks on other regions, sacking cities left and right. Attila and Bleda, upon becoming rulers, brokered a treaty with the Eastern Roman Emperor Theodosius II, where the Hun kings would receive 700 pounds of gold per year in exchange for protection from invasion. Attila was like the Tony Soprano of his day, extorting gold from leaders who were afraid of him. As long as he received their bribes, he would not invade their territories. After a few years, Attila randomly decided that the Eastern Empire had violated the treaty and attacked various Eastern Roman cities. As Attila approached Rome, which had weak defenses, the Emperor Theodosius was forced to negotiate a new treaty, which required payment to Attila each year with now 2,100 pounds of gold. Most people are lucky just to get a 2% raise. To stay in Attila's favor, leaders all over Europe would send gold and other treasures, but one woman would get even more creative. In the Western Roman Empire, Valentinian III bestowed an honorary title upon Attila as a tribute, pretty much in hopes it would be enough with gold to remain safe from his wrath. Valentinian III's sister, Honoria, had other ideas. She was about to enter into an arranged marriage with a senator whom her brother approved, as he did not threaten his power. He was not very ambitious, and Honoria found him dull. She decided to write a letter to Attila asking him to rescue her from becoming trapped in a loveless marriage. She also enclosed her ring, which Attila perceived as a proposal. He sent word to Valentinian III that he was on the way to fetch his new bride, and her dowry would only be half of the Western Roman Empire. Valentinian III immediately sent word that the proposal was not valid, but Attila would not be stopped. He aimed his army at Ravenna in Italy, while the emperor planned to kill his sister for her misdeed. Their mother intervened, so instead, she was sent into hiding. She probably was eventually forced to marry the senator for her punishment. Attila was prepared to fight for what he thought was rightfully his. He went to Italy to claim Honoria and half of the Western Empire, looting and destroying cities, but returned to his home base in Hungary empty-handed for unknown reasons. Sweeping across Italy to claim his bride, Attila's army pillaged and destroyed entire cities so thoroughly that modern archaeologists are still digging for them to this day. Many inhabitants of these areas, in fear for their lives, fled to some islands and marshes off the eastern coast. They believed they would be safe there from the Huns because Huns fought their battles from their horses and refused to dismount. Rarely, if ever, did they dismount to engage in combat. They preferred to just shoot their arrows at their targets on horseback. The Italians' plan worked, and they were spared a violent death at the hands of Attila and his army. These islands would eventually be settled and become the beautiful city of Venice, known for its waterways and romantic gondola rides, all because the Huns did not want to get off their high horses. Thanks, Attila! For over 15 years, Attila was such a strong leader that he had earned a reputation of invincibility. That was until his defeat in Gaul. In 451, Attila and his army of at least 200,000 men attacked what is now the Champagne region of France in the Battle of the Catalonian Plains. The battle lasted only one day, but the Roman army under Flavius Aetius, as well as their allies, the Visigoths, surprisingly defeated the Huns and their leader Attila, a man with an impeccable record until then. It would be his first and last only loss. You might say he took a huge L, and he didn't even get a participation trophy. While Attila was nursing his wounded ego from his first defeat in Gaul, Marcian became the emperor of the East and began revoking all the treaties between the Romans and the Huns. He felt embarrassed that he had to send gold in order to keep the barbarians from attacking, so he put an end to the yearly tributes. Attila was infuriated by Marcian's violations of the treaties. He would not tolerate such disrespect, and although he was planning to invade the West, he decided to change course and devise an attack on the East. He wanted to eliminate Marcian. He would not get the chance to follow through with his new strategy. Though Attila had several wives, no one knows exactly how many or who most of them were. One of the known wives was Kreka, who gave him 3 sons, Elik, Dengizic, and Ernak. After his failed attempt to marry Honoria, he instead was wed to a young bride, Ildico, who would be his last wife. On his wedding day in 453, Attila decided that he would fight for his right to party, and he celebrated by eating and drinking excessively, which was unusual for him according to some accounts. The next morning, when he did not come down for breakfast, his servants broke down the door to his quarters. Attila was found in his bed with blood coming from his nose. This king of the Huns for nearly 20 years, known by his Christian enemies as the Scourge of God, was dead. Several theories circulated about Attila's cause of death. Some thought that perhaps Ildico had stabbed him, but there were no wounds to support this. One theory promoted a conspiracy between Ildico and the Western Roman Emperor Marcian. Some believe he had died of alcohol poisoning, and some historians believe the most likely theory is that he got a nosebleed and was so drunk that he choked on his own blood. For a man whose death is mired in mystery, it should not be surprising that the location of his gravesite is not actually known. One account from Priscus, a Roman diplomat and historian, is considered the most credible, and states that he was buried in a gold coffin, which was placed in a silver coffin, which then was placed in an iron coffin. The river was temporarily dammed. He was buried, and then the river was released to cover the grave. It is also said that the gravediggers were prisoners who were later eliminated to prevent them from telling anyone the location of Attila's body and the gold and gemstones buried with him. This was devised to prevent grave robbers from doing their jobs. It is believed that his grave is somewhere in Hungary, so that should narrow it down. After Attila's death, his 3 sons, Elik, Dengizic, and Ernak co-ruled and destroyed the Hunnic Empire within 16 years with their infighting, poor management of resources, and lack of attention to the running of the kingdom. Attila's life and legacy was gone, never to return to its former glory. What surprised you most about Attila the Hun? Let us know in the comment section. We hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time for more Nutty History. Don't forget to like and subscribe.